ChewintheCud again, Season 1, Episode 5. My name's Andrew Jones.
And my name's Neil Greggor, and we're back again.
This time a little bit different for two reasons. This time we're around Neil's kitchen table rather than mine, so thank you, Neil.
That's an absolute pleasure.
And, this time we have our first international guest. We have two today, but first of all, welcome Jan.
Hello.
And welcome Andy.
Nice to talk to everybody.
I just want to say before we start, this is one of the most exciting things I've ever seen in my whole career. I can't wait for you guys to put this message across to people, and I just hope it gets the reaction it really should get.
Yeah. We've got an interesting subject, so we'll move on to that. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to all our listeners that are continuing to listen and obviously grow with us. I'd particularly like to say thank you to whoever listens to us in the US, because somebody downloads our podcast as soon as it's released, so thank you, much appreciated. Love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
Contact us, as we said before, email podcast@chewinthecud.com, or follow us on Twitter, which is chewinthecudpod. We're also on other social media too. So today we are talking to Jan and Andy from, I'm going to say JOZ, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Right, so JOZ, JOZ? Yeah,
JOZ.
Yeah, any, don't care.
It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Great. Well, this subject was Neil's to start with. So, Neil, I'll let you. How did we start down this process, and then we can talk to our guests as to who they are.
Just for fun, it's obviously a passion of ours. Is sort of getting sustainable agriculture. Really looking at what we can actually do to make a difference. And like we've often discussed, we want to make the difference. It's no use expecting everybody else to make the difference. And I seriously believe that this is something that's going to make a huge difference. So, shall we go over to Jan? And Jan, you can maybe introduce yourself.
Yep. And
tell us a bit sort of like personally about you and where you come from and what you do.
Yes, my name Jan Bethlehem. I work for JOZ in Holland. I worked there now for 12 and a half years. Before that, in principle, I've always been in agriculture from my youth upon.
Are you from a farm originally, or?
A bit. My father did a farm for 2 years, so that is nothing that I still know about. But I've always lived in the countryside. I've always worked on farms, on dairy farms, on arable farms for contractors. I did also the agricultural university in Holland, and afterwards I worked a couple of years for Rabobank as an agricultural advisor, financial advisor. Mm-hmm. Then I started selling tractors, everything in front and behind of it. I did that for 20 years. So again, in agriculture, I love farmers to work with and to talk to. After that, I had a couple of years, I went into export, sold storages, manure storages all over Europe. And after that, I started with JOZ, selling our robots, sledded floor robots, feed pusher robots, but also our automatic scraper systems. And I'm doing that now as an area manager for Northern Europe, so Ireland, England, all the Scandinavian countries and the Baltics.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the history of JOZ?
The history of JOZ. It is roughly 80 years ago we started up.
Wow.
In a very small village in the north of Holland. The company grew, and we started up with turning chains. In principle, a chain going around with an elevator, bringing the straw and the manure on a big heap outside of the barn. And this grew until I think 20 years ago probably. The owner started up with a slatted floor robot. He thought about it, and we developed it.
I say it's probably in this country, I'd argue it's probably the last 15, 20 years that the name's started to get known, as you say, for pusher up.
For robots, yes. Yes. So we were also the first ones on the market. We invented the slatted floor robot. After that, for the slatted floor robots, we have the fourth version at the moment already. So we are always innovative. We also always want to go forward. After that, we started with the feed pusher, developing the feed pusher robot. That is the robot that is really very interesting for all dairy farmers, because when you push your feed on a regular basis, it'll bring you money. Payback time for a feed pusher is very fast.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it on farms. You put a pusher in, and instead of pushing up 2-3 times a day, it's pushing up 6-7 times a day.
Yeah, or more.
Brings the well, to be honest with you, when we've been on farm with Andy and Jan this morning, and as soon as you saw it, it brought the cows up. It gets them to eat more.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've definitely seen you see that extra litre of milk, litre and a half of milk. So as you say, the return on investment on those things is quite quick.
And finishing the food, which means you're getting less waste. So that's absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah, we saw that today. Yeah.
So after that, we talked about the move. After that, we came out with the collector robot. So that is in principle a bit different than the slatted floor robot. The slatted floor robot pushes it forward, the manure, and it falls through the slats. The collector picks it up.
Yeah.
So in principle, the collector is a robot that can or is able to replace an automatic scraper installation. And our latest on the market is our Gazoo. It is not a robot, but it is an installation that takes out the nitrogen out of the manure and makes it available for as a fertilizer, to use it as a fertilizer.
And it's the Gazoo that we're here to talk about today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But before we do, let's bring Andy in. What's your background? Same as Jan. Where did you start, and how did you get to where you are today?
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks, Neil, for the opportunity. Unlike Jan, I'm not from farming. My mid-20s, responded to an advert from Keenan, Irish mixed wagon company at the time, as service manager in the UK. So I moved from trucks to ag back then. Worked in Ireland for a few years as well at the factory. I was blessed with Keenan. They were growing very quickly at the time. Went to France in '96. 6 years in France. We set up the French subsidiary from scratch, which was so exciting for a guy late 20s. Was terrific. Also worked in the US, in the Northeast, in Canada, Quebec mostly, a little bit into Ontario. And funnily enough, it was up in the cold north of Quebec that I saw my first milking robot. And then went to work for Lely. So I joined Lely in 2009. I was with them until the end of 2017, when Lely sold their machinery business to AGCO, transferred there. Spent a few years working with Gear over in Germany and in the UK. And then early this year, heard of the intended purchase from JOZ of Fullwood and joined as part of that transaction.
Well, as you mentioned, that I was probably going to bring it up later, but bring it up now before we get on to Zoo. So, most people in this country obviously know Fullwood, well-known name. JOZ brought forward, what are we now, 4 months ago?
Months, yeah.
Where, from my outside point of view, I saw it as a perfect thing. JOZ had the pusher-upper, the scrapers. What it needed in terms of automation was the robot, and obviously Fullwood have got the Merlin. How does that fit from JOZ's point of view? Is that what their intention was? Really, I know it's a big subject, but yeah, where do you see it going on that side of things before we start talking about the Gazoo?
In my eyes, Let's start in the beginning that I came to the UK. That is roughly 8-9 years ago. I only had 2 dealers in the UK. Now, after 8 years, I have roughly 12 dealers in the UK, and 6 of them are Fullwood dealers.
Fullwood dealers as well.
So I knew already for a long time that Fullwood was fitting
Yes.
really
Complementing
perfectly,
each other.
perfectly to JOZ.
Yeah.
So the idea when JOZ came for sale, after Fullwood came for sale, the idea was there right away, and my CEO was I did the deal a couple of months ago.
But we just to clarify this, we spoke about this earlier. It was just the Fullwood part of the business, not the Paco part of the business.
The Fullwood
wasn't it?
deal.
So you're still not got a tank option of your own
No.
at the moment. But otherwise, I can see it complementing each other very, very well, because you've got that automation from the inside the shed, and now you've got the automation or a parlour to milk the cows and make a nice system all round. So I think potentially that's a very good fit. So,
and sorry if I just chip in there, it's fair to say that the management of JOZ or Fullwood JOZ on our side of the business, Jan's on the JOZ side, totally focused on developing this business for Fullwood JOZ and for JOZ, 2 separate routes to market. And we see massive potential to grow, certainly here in the southwest of England.
I mean, let's be honest, I think Fullwood have been very quiet for the last little while. There'd be no what's the word I'm looking for? I don't think we're misplaced by saying that. They've been very quiet in terms of being in the market.
For other reasons, the previous owners weren't too focused on business. We're the opposite, so let's
onwards and upwards.
Onwards and upwards.
Fantastic. So we are here to talk about the Gazoo. I think this is Neil. Both we think this is a very interesting prospect in the market.
Really worth talking about.
Yeah, definitely. It's very early on. Probably a lot of people don't know about this yet. And that's why I thought let's talk to you guys and get it out there, let people think about it. We're all being pushed to be more sustainable. The benefits, as well as sustainability, is obviously where fertiliser is at the moment. But really, Jan and Andy, what can you tell us about the Gazoo? Where does it start? How does the process go? And then we can talk about maybe some of the benefits on farm, etc., etc.
Yeah. So let's start with explaining the process. We start with manure, the product manure, that will go through a separator, and this separator separates it in dry matter and a liquid
solid
fraction.
And liquid.
Solid and liquid fraction.
Yeah.
So the dry fraction is roughly 38% of dry matter. That makes it usable to use as biobedding.
Or green manure.
Yeah.
But as should point out, obviously some people would know, obviously in this country some processors have banned green manure.
Yeah.
So it's obviously, it depends on your process, but it's there, it can be used as a green manure.
It can be used, but it can also be spread in the field, of course.
And just to add, spreading it in the field, we were actually speaking about it earlier. You're not taking huge amounts of water in manure to the field. You're taking a lot less, so it's a huge cost saving and probably more effective. So carry on.
Then we have the liquid fraction. Maybe it's better to talk about the numbers, the kilograms, etc. later. So after we have the liquid fraction, and that liquid fraction goes through our Gazoo. It comes in the first part of the Gazoo, where we add an alkaline or we add heat, and we use the alkaline or the heat for the nitrogen to evaporate. Then there's simply said, there's a ventilator in between the first and the second part of the gazoo that blows the air with nitrogen to the other part. And in the second part, we take out the nitrogen again. We add an acid and we add water, and this combination takes out the nitrogen out of the air, and the end product is what we call biogrow, is water with nitrogen dissolved in it.
So it's a liquid fertiliser.
Liquid fertilizer that can be used in the field and can be spread in the field very precisely.
By with a sprayer, as you would a conventional liquid.
Yeah.
Brought in liquid
Yeah,
fertiliser.
it's completely free of solids, so it is clear as water,
Yeah.
and you can spread it in the field with the chemical spray.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how big is one of these units? Because I'm guessing they're modular, and what capacity in terms of cow numbers, based on an average cow, are they?
The sizes you can compare one gazoo at the moment. You can compare it to a 40-foot container.
That was my impression from the picture. It just looks like a shipping container.
Yeah.
So effectively a 40-foot shipping container.
Yeah.
Right. So it's easy for people to imagine the size of the operation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was your second question?
I can't remember. Oh yes. What capacity in terms of cow numbers?
Oh yeah. Now one gazoo at the moment can do 300 the manure of 350 cows.
Super.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what sort of storage capacity do you need for the liquid product? Did you call it biogrow? Was it
Biogrow? Yeah.
that you can then go and use? I mean.
We have we also deliver special tanks.
Thanks. Yeah.
With it, that they stand up and they can contain up to 50,000 cubic of 50 cubics of liquid fertilizer.
So for
it depends on how big the farm is,
obviously,
how many and how big those tanks are.
Yeah.
But if you want, let's make it easy, 350 cow farm, because that's what you said the maximum of one gazoo.
350, yeah.
If you wanted 6 months storage, how much capacity would you need?
Difficult question. That is that different on all the farms. That there's no average in principle. No.
So as you said, there's a different percentage of material within that manure. So a percentage of water or percentage of.
But also,
solids.
Not all the manure has the same nitrogen involved.
Yeah. Of course, as you said, there was a percentage difference. What was that percentage you said between of nitrogen in the liquid? Yeah,
that depends on what kind of acid the farmer uses in the gazoo. The contents of nitrogen in the water is 8% when you use the standard and the most cheap kind of acid, and when you use the more expensive one, I think the price is almost triple the price of the first one.
Mm-hmm.
But that acid also contains nitrogen, so that will be part of it will also be dissolved in water, and that gives you a product with more nitrogen in it. That is up to 16%.
Right.
16%.
So effectively double the analysis. It's just something I've thought of while I've been talking, and certainly not something I've asked you before. How much does water quality affect this process? Because I'm just thinking, certainly in the southwest and as other places, very hard water because we're limestone. does that make a difference to it? Does it need to be soft water, or is hard water not a problem?
I could give an answer, but I would be lying because I don't know the
Don't know.
answer.
That's fair
No.
enough.
No.
It's better you say you don't know than
Yeah.
say one way or the other.
Yeah.
So,
I suppose more alkaline water. So it was.
well, I was going to say that might have an effect on things a little bit as
Yeah.
well. The pH
Yeah.
of
Might be a
water as
positive.
well.
Probably, yeah.
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 But so the basic principle is you are taking waste from a cow,
Yeah.
and through the process you are turning that into a usable liquid fertiliser that can be used on farm, and through that process is reducing ammonia levels, is reducing methane levels, so is ticking all the boxes for saying we are a more sustainable industry.
Yeah.
We are using our waste more effectively, but also we're not buying in so much fertiliser, which all has a knock-on effect when you're looking at carbon footprint or whatever it
Yep.
happens to be.
Yep.
So that has got to be a big tick.
That probably is one of the solutions for the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I mean, so how long has the Gazoo been commercially available?
For 2 years.
2
now.
years. So the oldest one now is
2 years
2
old.
years.
Yeah.
Have there been any problems with it? Because let's be honest, it's still early days.
Of course, now and then there is something going on, but those kind of things can be solved,
Solved.
and they are solved.
Yeah.
Recently we spoke to this farmer. This farmer but he has 120 cows,
Yeah.
and he told me that his investment, first of all, he was very happy with his investment, and second of all, he really said it has a payback time of 4 to 5 years in his case.
And I'm assuming that's before current rises in fertiliser,
Yes.
what's it, last year
Yes.
or whatever it is.
Yeah,
But I'm guessing in Holland you've probably got more costs in other ways. I think you mentioned, earlier, was it slurry removal costs
Yeah.
and bits and pieces like
yeah.
that?
The same guy, the same customer. His farm is in nature, surrounded by nature.
Yeah.
And he has lots of regulations where he has to count with. To be able to go on with his farm, he had to remove the manure
Yep.
that he produced too much. For him, this meant extra costs on a yearly basis of 30,000 euros.
A lot of money.
He had to pay that
Yeah.
for all the manure to remove.
I've got a busy afternoon ahead of me.
I quite like it.
Yeah.
But those situations will be different, of course,
Of
in
course,
the UK.
every farm
Regulations
is
are
different.
different.
Discussion we had this morning. Regulations are different. Everything's different.
Yeah.
But the basic principle is you are taking it's not a waste product, because let's be honest, with fertiliser, the way it's priced, people are trying to use their slurry and manure more effectively than maybe they have been previously. But this takes it another step. This makes it more usable, more refined. You're not carrying liquid around in slurry, and that's cost ineffective, isn't it? When and you're making a more usable product at the end for people to use on farm, and that's got to be a good thing, as well as reducing emissions, which is what we're all being told we need to do.
Yeah.
So it's got to be a good thing, and I know we were discussing it earlier. It's still early days, and I think, Andy, you made a comment regarding robots, didn't you, in terms of where it is in terms of robots.
Back in 2009 when I joined Lately, robots were new, whereas now robots are
Commonplace.
Commonplace. Over half of new equipment, dairy equipment in the UK is now robotic.
Wow, yeah.
And in terms of Gazoo, although the product is only 2 years commercially available, the the technology is simple, it's quite proven, and all of our dealers who can service a robot can service Gazoo, Jan, is that not right?
Yeah.
So, we have over 50 dealers in the UK and Ireland who can service this product, so I think we're quite well placed to meet this growing demand.
Exactly, that's the thing, as we were sort of saying, while it's still early days, in the way that robots, as you say, they're half of all new equipment sold, I think we can all see this. Some might say whether we like it or not, but we can all see this in probably 10 years' time. The conversation will be, well, not look at this new technology, there's another Gazoo or equivalent, wherever it happens to be, there's something, because we're all going to be going down that route of we have to make more effective use of what we're doing on farm. And this has got to be another piece in the puzzle, whether it's, as a previous episode, it's better on farm recycling, or it's making better use of your slurry, or whatever it happens to be. These are the kind of things we need to be doing.
It's all about being sustainable for the environment, but also financially for the farmer.
Exactly. Yeah, we got to meet in the middle, haven't we? And then another question, or actually a comment that we spoke about, was the smell of the manure that you're taking out, and that is reduced. Am I correct?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
So I mean, that is, we all know, living in the countryside and sort of like with houses popping up like mushrooms, that does become an issue.
It does.
And we do get people speaking to us about it continuously, and I can always tell when I walk out my door when people are spreading. I can smell it, and I'm in the middle of town.
Yeah.
So it's
But
definitely.
Don't you love it?
Oh, I absolutely love it, but my neighbours might not. I'm quite comfortable. So I think that's one of the factors, and again, it's a factor that will come in and haunt us. And it's good to actually have an understanding that there is something that we can do about it. So
It might be early days, and some
Absolutely.
people listening to this might go, "No, it's not for me." Sorry, I think 10 years' time it will be a case of why aren't you doing it,
Yeah,
rather than
probably,
why not, this is not for me. And as we were saying before we started this, from our point of view, let's get this out to people to make them think about it. I mean, I'm sure you guys are already publicising it, whatever, but it's still let people know about it, let people think about it, because it's, let's be blunt, we haven't talked about it, but I'm guessing they're not something you can buy cheaply off the shelf. There is quite an investment on it, but it has to be about the return on that investment, not just the headline price. And so people are going to say, and I'm sure as there's more sold, the likelihood is the technology and the availability will become cheaper, and it will be, I think in 10 years' time, it will be, why aren't you using one of these, rather than why are you using, it'll be why aren't you? So you're talking about numbers. Let's go back to the numbers then, Jan. Take an average cow. What sort of waste is she producing, and what can we see as an end product from that?
Yeah, let's start with the cow. That's a good thing to do. A cow, in average, produces 120 kilograms of nitrogen every year. So what we do with the Gazoo is that we get that manure, we suck it up with the pump, we push it through a separator, and the result is dry matter and liquid fraction. This dry matter still contains, of this 120 kilograms, it still contains 60 kilograms of nitrogen. This nitrogen is what I call the good nitrogen. This good nitrogen is not going down in the groundwater and is not going to evaporate. So when the farmer brings it in the field, it doesn't smell, and the nitrogen will be available for the plants that are growing there. The other 60 kilograms are inside the liquid fraction, and with that 60 kilograms, the Gazoo will take out 80% at least. At the moment, we already have results of roughly 90%, but we still are calculating with 80% taken out.
So you think that as obviously the technology matures, there's opportunity for it to be better and better?
Yeah. Yeah, and probably the number of cows will go up also
Yeah.
per installation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 60% of the bad nitrogen, 60 kilograms, 80% of that is 48 kilograms.
Yeah.
48 kilograms of nitrogen will be in the water and can be used as a liquid fertilizer. Of course, the farmer can use it himself, but he also could sell it as a liquid fertilizer to an arable farmer when he doesn't need it himself.
Yeah.
So that then it brings him money directly.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that, I'm guessing, from my point of view, with the nutrition, the 120 kilos will depend how those cows are fed,
Yes.
what their level of crude protein is, what their use of their level of protein efficiency usage is. So it's all going to depend on each farm is going to be different. Yeah, we've got to, for purposes of this, you've got to take an average cow and say this is where it is, but obviously each farm is going to be different depending on what they're being fed, environment, etc., etc.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see this as something more for farms that are housed fully, or do you think there is a market for this for those that are only housed for winter, or even some that are only housed for a couple of months a year?
In principle, it will be the most profitable for those farms who have the cows in all year,
Because they're using it all the time.
because you can use it all the time.
Yeah.
And let's speak about the number 350. When 350 cows are inside the year all over, our machine can work the whole year and can do his thing. Suppose you have your cows in the field the whole summer, so half
Yeah, half and half.
50% of
Yeah.
the time the cows are outside, 50% of the time the cows are inside. In that case, you could think of a system when you're having 700 cows and you store 50% of the manure. You could,
Yeah.
in summertime, separate and send through the gazoo. In summertime, you could send
Yes.
the slurry
Slurry
from winter.
Yeah, store it, and then you're using it more effectively
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
year round.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
true.
Rather than two.
So the
yeah.
capacity would go up in that way,
Yeah.
that you can serve more cows because they are outside the whole summer.
Yeah.
Or you could get it from your neighbour, I suppose.
Yes,
Yeah, if
of
you-
course,
you know,
that
'cause-
can also be
Yeah,
done.
that's now what
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about, the MVZ areas.
Yeah.
If you've got to remove your manure but you're not allowed to put it out,
Yeah.
and you don't have storage for it,
Yeah, we were talking about Wales earlier on, weren't
we were,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's one of, exactly, that's a very good
Well-
solution actually.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I guess it just made me think about it in terms of, let's be honest, while they're with robots, majority are in all the time, and there are other high input systems that are in all the time.
For sure.
Obviously, there are still, let's call it the traditional method of 6 months in, 6 months out, or there or thereabouts. Or now you've got the rise of in the last 20, 30 years of spring carver. So you've got the one extreme, you've got in all the time, the other side of spring carver. They may only come in, December time,
Yeah.
and ideally they could be out February if the season's right. So they might be in maximum of 3 months of the year.
Yeah.
Point is, though, that probably still needs to happen, doesn't it? As we're talking about from the sustainability point of view, for those 3 months, this is where this could come in line. I guess what we're saying now is obviously the return on investment is going to take longer because
Yeah.
it's not being used to its capacity or its potential.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's still going to be some slurry off the yards every day when you scrape up or wash down or whatever it happens to be, but it's still not going to be the same, is it?
Correct.
Mm.
So, again, I'm going to ask you, because I know you said, you can't answer, but 350 cow farm, how many litres of storage, how many of liquid fertiliser do you think would be available? Daily or yearly, or because saying there's 8% or 16%, someone's still going to want to know how much is that. potentially that I can use?
The most you've seen or the least you've seen?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember a calculation for a farm with 350 cows, and he needed 2 tanks of 50 cubics.
So 100 cubics
a day.
For how long? How was that, for 6 months storage or a year's storage or
That was for the full capacity of a year.
a year?
A year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because there's no point in saying at the end of it all we can produce is an egg cup full, because that's not a lot of use to anybody, is
No,
it?
no,
As
no.
amazing as it is, it's still so
It's a lot.
so 350 cow farm for a year's capacity, and that's an example. That's all we want. Is potentially 100 cubes of
Yes.
fertiliser.
Yeah.
Okay, so that starts to add up in terms of where were we 2 years ago? It cost us £8,000 for a load of nitram. Now it'd probably cost you close to 20 grand, or even then some, for a load of nitram. Potentially that starts adding up and can make a little bit of a saving.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
If your dairy farmer could save 1 load a year.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Plus utilises manure better,
Better.
and get more out of it.
Absolutely.
You can't even put that into real monetary terms. It's very, very difficult to work that out.
I should say thank you, Jan, because I can see you're still squirming a little bit at answering that question. But I'm sorry, we've got to
But
give it some
well,
idea of
that was
qualifying.
well
yeah,
answered.
yeah.
Even though this is a specific example, that's really
Yes,
all you can
that's
really do.
all we
Yeah.
that's all we can do, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
appreciate every farm's different, but as I say, if all we're producing is an egg cup full, well then
yeah.
well done, but there's not a lot of point.
No.
But if we can turn around and say, well, there's potentially 100 cubes with 8% or 16% nitrogen to it,
Yeah.
then
There's a good environmental, good
Yeah.
commercial case for it.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. So I mean, how many are they just in Holland at the moment, or have you got any else?
At the moment, yes. And I believe we also sold the first one in Germany.
Yep.
Every other country has other regulations, of course. So, and we with the first 10, we wanted to stay close
Close, yeah.
to the
Makes
company.
sense. Yeah.
So when there
Yeah.
are problems, or when there are some things appearing, some problems appearing, then we wanted to be there very quickly to try and solve it. But the first one is going in Germany the coming months.
And obviously, where we were today, someone you knew, Neil, wasn't it,
Yep.
that is interested in this.
Yeah.
And obviously, that was great for us because it was somebody local that we could visit,
Yeah.
see Jan and Andy, and just have that. We all had that discussion. Their agronomist was there as well,
Yeah.
which I think was a really good discussion because we were all offering different points to it and where
Yeah.
it can fit in his system. But it was great that we had that opportunity, and thank you for letting us tag along to that opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
To see potentially what it can be on farms. It gives us obviously more to talk about today now, but
Yeah.
no, so it's good. So I mean, I guess we've obviously been on a farm today that's interested, but much interest here in the UK other than that.
But just to add on to that farm visit, just before you ask the question, one of the things I really enjoyed is that the agronomist is just as excited and
Yes.
up about it once you guys had explained it to him. I mean, the
Yeah.
guy was jumping up and down like a
Yeah.
child.
Yeah, it really was.
He could absolutely see what you were talking about and how well it would work on the farm practically.
Well,
And
as we
absolutely brilliant.
mentioned, actually, yeah, he did some quick calculations, didn't
Yeah.
he, then and
Mm.
there, and he basically said that could save half of the purchased fertiliser a year. So that I think the farm normally buying 2 loads of nitrogen a year,
Yes. Yeah.
and he was basically saying we could. With the capacity, and that was 180 cows, wasn't it? Sorry.
Yes. Yeah.
There's potential he could save buying 1 load of fertiliser a year. Well, that's
Yeah.
potentially half his fertiliser.
That's right. And probably use his fertiliser more effectively because, as we
Yep.
said, he can
Yep,
be
yep.
specific with it because of it being easier to spread.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
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 So sorry,
Yeah,
carry
so-
on
so,
asking
yeah.
Jan the question.
Yes, I can't even remember what the question was now. Yes, have you had more interest from here in the UK?
Yes. At the moment, I have roughly 10 projects going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
In terms of, you don't have to answer this, but how far along? Have you got somebody signed up, or just getting close to it, or?
What those customers are doing at the moment, they are applying for grants for the installation.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
I'm assuming under new technology, and if I'm wrong, I apologise. I assume it's about 40%, isn't it? I
Yeah,
think, for
roughly.
those
Yeah,
sort of
yeah,
things.
yeah.
So,
That's a lot of money.
It is a lot of money.
Yeah.
Okay, elephant in the room. How much is one of these?
The installation itself, and there will be more cost, of course,
Yeah.
but the installation itself will be 190 to 200,000 euros.
Euros. So what's that?
And then you need those tanks,
Yeah, you
etc.,
need the other
etc.,
bits.
etc.
So for our 40-foot container with the Gazoo in, we're effectively saying 200,000 euros,
Yeah, roughly.
roughly, there
Yeah.
or thereabouts, whatever that is in
Yeah.
pounds. But I guess given
Not
the way
hugely less.
well, I was going to say, given the way the economy's gone recently, as this has been recorded in October 2022, who knows? But yeah, so approximately 200,000 euros. But then obviously there's site costs and all of those. We
And your
get all of that.
preparation
Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
Yeah,
Basically,
roughly it
so
will be
yeah.
around 300
Okay. Euros. It's right, 1,000
pounds.
euros.
pounds.
Okay.
pounds, yeah,
Okay.
which is roughly, yeah, it's
Yeah, yeah.
Which
Roughly.
as we tried to say earlier or convey earlier, it's not necessarily about the headline cost. It's about the
Return on investment, that's the
return.
main
I
thing.
mean, let's get me wrong. £300,000 is not something to be
sneezed at.
It's a big investment.
Yeah.
We all accept that.
Yeah.
But it's also what the potential return on that, and as if you can demonstrate that within 5 years. Well, really, that's in the grand scheme of things not a lot, because I remember one of the first things, I think Andy, you'd gone over to look at it by that point, I can't remember, but it was like, so I said to where we were this morning, so how long have you been with robots? And he said, well, I've just finished paying for that
7
one.
years.
Yeah, and usually the robots are 7 years. Well, if it's 7 years for that, and from the experience that you've had already, it's 5 years. Really,
And the beautiful thing is with the Gazoo, this is really solid, simple technology. So the longevity of the product should be a lot longer than 7 years.
from what I
Right.
understand of it, there's
Yeah.
not a huge amount of moving parts apart from the pump. It's not overly complicated.
and the pump shouldn't be that hard to replace, even if you needed to, I suppose.
I mean, what are the ongoing costs, I suppose, as well? Because obviously that's got to come into. I'm thinking, how much acid do you need to make? Do you need a litre of acid to make a litre of water, bio grow, or what's the?
To give you a clue, in cost on a yearly basis, it'll be, and that are numbers what I hear in average. For alkaline, you will need roughly 4,000 euros on a yearly basis.
What sort of cow numbers are we talking? I should clarify for that.
This is the one for 350.
So for a full 350, right?
Yeah,
Okay, about
yeah.
4,000 euros
And roughly 6,000-7,000 for the asset per year on a yearly basis. So,
Yeah.
so it's not
No,
every month or
no.
every
So
week.
you're talking about 10,000 euros effectively a year for 350 cows. So where we were today, you'd approximately halve that when you're giving these
Yeah.
cow numbers, or thereabouts.
Yeah.
Which isn't massive, and obviously
No.
that comes into your return on investment. But still, if you're turning that kind of investment around in 5 years, I mean,
But obviously, we make the figures for every farm separate.
Yes.
Yeah,
well, yeah,
That is also the reason that I needed figures from this farmer
Well,
this morning,
yeah.
and we will put those figures in a calculator, and we will give him an answer later how profitable or non-profitable the installation will be on his farm.
I was just about to say that actually, that when we been outside and we went inside, you sat down with the farmer and you asked him a variety of questions, stock numbers, a slurry analysis, things like that, wasn't it? So then, as you say, you can go away for each farm, do them a return on investment calculation, so they will know what it is for them. And that's a great thing to do, definitely.
yeah. So it'll be quite easy for you guys. Just if anybody that's listening that wants a quote, just to get hold of you, and then you would then be able to give them one and have a look at
Be
it.
able to send Andy out next time. He should know what he's doing now.
Send Andy out.
Keep learning.
You've been very quiet over there, Andy. Is there anything you want to add to this, or is it still very much a learning curve
It's
for you?
very much a learning curve for me, and I'm thoroughly enjoying learning with Jan.
Yeah.
Good.
It's been a really entertaining day, hasn't it? It's been phenomenal.
It has. It has. 'Cause I mean, obviously, Neil brought. You said it to me, didn't it, about the reports from Holland? Was it for the government to buy gazoos rather than
Oh yes, yeah.
buy farms out or something like that,
Well,
wasn't it?
Well, it was actually somebody from your company that had actually put it on LinkedIn, and I happened to read the article, and they were speaking. She was actually speaking about the difference between government going in there, paying out farmers because of the high nitrate levels to get off the farm, sell all the animals, move on, and then she put it into what the difference would be if they actually went the Gazoo route.
Yeah.
And of course, apart from anything else, it's my absolute passion to look at things like that. Lovely new technology, really exciting, and that's how I got hold of Andy.
We
and
connected, yeah.
and that's how we connected on it. So yeah,
Yeah, no, in principle, in Holland, farms usually are not allowed to grow anymore. But when they have a gazoo, in principle, animal production of nitrogen goes down
So
because you
potential-
take it out
Yeah,
for a liquid fertilizer. So in principle,
you could grow.
these farmers could grow
and I
in
mean,
that situation.
I mean, you cannot argue the fact that we're trying to get away from fossil fertilizers. So the more we get away from that, but we've got to make another source, and whether it's for cereals or for any vegetables, or they still need fertilizer.
Oh yeah.
So we need to find another way to do that.
Yeah.
Reduce it on the farm, you're saving haulage costs, reducing haulage costs.
Everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Exactly.
whole thing.
Carbon footprint. I mean, doesn't
Yeah.
matter what. It doesn't matter what
Angle.
your beliefs are. We still need livestock in the system. Whether it's if we were trying to get away from fossil
Fuel,
fertilizers,
yeah,
as you just
anything.
said,
Yeah.
you've got to have another source. The other source is already here and ready to go. We've just
Yeah.
got to make better use of it than we have been. And let's be honest, I know plenty of arable farmers will quite happily take it off a dairy farm now because they know they're losing some soil structure, they're losing all of these things, and what's been good. But that, as you were saying, that it's been a good day because I mean, that's I think where I was going was. You brought this to my attention. I had a look at it and go, well, I think I sort of know it's down. In the last couple of days, I've done some more reading, and the potential there. So, regarding reading, that brings it on. There are competing products in the market, and I'm aware of at least two others. I won't mention who they are, but what makes yours different?
The difference with ours and what's on the market right now is, I think, I'm sure, we start in the beginning. So we take the nitrogen out of the manure. We don't wait until it evaporates, the nitrogen evaporates, and then suck up the air and take out the nitrogen. We start in the beginning. So as soon as possible in the process.
It's basically, as soon as it's collected,
Yeah.
you're looking to process it
Yeah.
and take it from there. So no, that's good.
So make the risk as low as possible.
Exactly, in terms of emissions,
Yes.
etc., etc.,
Yes.
And
etc.
smell. And
So I think it's probably getting time to bring this to a close. So Jan, any last comments from yourself?
No, comments. I see a bright future for our product in Holland, where, of course, this started because of also the difficult situation our farmers are in. So this product could bring a good solution for them. But seeing the interest in the UK, I'm almost sure that it will be a very good investment in the UK too.
Well, as we said earlier, it won't be a question of why are you doing it, why aren't you doing it moving forward.
Yeah.
Andy, anything from yourself?
I thoroughly enjoyed the day. It's been fascinating, and I think all of us felt some energy on the farm, including Richard.
yeah,
I know we're talking about having an evening together, inviting some other dairy farmers to come and join, listen to Jan.
Yep.
So perhaps we can build on that after the discussion today and share a date for people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and just to encourage everybody, it will be on our website, and so we will be organising an evening or an afternoon of some sort so we can all get together and we can have a chat about this properly. So watch this space.
Thank you, Neil.
So on that one, I'd like to thank Jan and say our first international guest. So there you go. Thank you for coming over. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Neil. And again, thank you for listening to us. As I say, any questions regarding this or anything else, then obviously please contact us, podcast@ChewintheCud.com. More than happy to answer your questions or pass them on to the appropriate person. But otherwise, thank you very much, and hope we'll catch up with you soon. All right, thank you very much, and goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And now for the really boring bit, I'm afraid, the legal disclaimer. The information provided during this podcast has been prepared for general information purposes only and does not constitute advice. The information must not be relied upon for any purpose, and no representation or warranty is given to its accuracy, completeness or otherwise. Any reference to other organisations, businesses or products during this podcast are not endorsements or recommendations of Chewing the Cud Limited. The views of Andrew Jones are personal and may not be the views of Chewing the Cud Limited, and the views of Neil Greggor are personal and may not be the views of Master Gen Limited and any affiliated companies. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.